Okay, real life. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. Before we jump into today's interesting discussion, a quick reminder: we do these live streams every week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Central European Time and 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick update: we won't be streaming any live episodes for the next 2 weeks. We have some traveling. We will also be at WordCamp Gdynia, so if you are around, come and say hello. But after that, we have an exciting list of guests for the following episodes. So we'll keep you posted over LinkedIn, so you can keep on following. Also, a quick reminder: this is live, so if you have any questions about what we'll be discussing today or WordPress, please feel free to ask them. Today with me, I have Adi. Hello, or Adrian. Sorry, I thought it was Adi. How are
Adi
you?
is perfect. Adi is the short version.
Good, good. This is a bit strange for me because like me and Dad, basically we know each other for a few years now. We kept in touch since, which I always mention a couple of times in most probably I mentioned this in every podcast. The importance of WordCamps. That's where we're at, right, Adi? We went at WordCamp Europe,
Yeah, yeah.
and since then we kept in touch. So yeah, we kept in touch, and yeah, you work not you work. You're on the Cozmoslabs, and you have a number of plugins, two of which are Profile Builder and Paid Members Pro. Was it correct?
Paid member subscriptions.
Paid member
It's a
subscriptions.
it's a
No,
hard name to remember.
yeah, no worries. But yeah, that's why I wanted to invite you to have a chat about membership websites and how WordPress is used, what are the challenges and stuff like that. But before we jump in, maybe a quick introduction. Can you introduce yourself to those maybe who do not know you?
Yes, my pleasure. I'm Adrian Spiac. We're based in Romania. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cozmoslabs. And under this umbrella, we have several plugins. Plugins like Translatepress. We recently acquired a plugin called WP Webhooks, and most of our plugins are developed in-house. That is the case with our membership plugin called Paid Member Subscriptions, Profile Builder. So we have these plugins. We're a team of 20 people and have been doing like supporting and developing our own products, WordPress products. I think since 2011. We started as an agency and gradually a transition from services to building and supporting our own products.
Nice, nice. How many plugins do you have? Four, five? How many? Because you have TranslatePress, of course, but
Yes, we have, I would say, like four big plugins, like main plugins that we focus our the majority of our efforts on. And yeah, we have, I don't know exactly how many more, but more than a dozen.
good. Nice, nice. So yeah, let's jump a bit. Let's start talking a bit about membership websites. Hopefully, of course, we'll have you again sometime in the future talk a bit about translations because that is also a very interesting topic.
Definitely.
Exactly, yeah. But let's start about membership. So to start off with, so maybe for people who are not yet aware or who are thinking of if they should use WordPress or not, what type of membership websites do you usually see on WordPress?
So I actually do this regularly. I try to see, the type of the type of websites that our clients build and get a better understanding of their needs and what are the trends, what types of tools they need. And I've noticed like four categories. So I see a lot of consultancy courses being built, as a membership site selling these types of services. Then I see communities, associations, for example, that have membership sites. This is a pretty strong niche. There's also content creators and people that the type of websites where you need to pay to get access to a certain type of content. And in the end, you also have like a hybrid approach. You have like a membership site that has also attached like a WooCommerce store. So you can have things like a community that pays, with members, but you also have some physical products that you can sell to them. It can also be things like, a members only store store that's restricted just to members and things like that. So I would say these four main categories are what I'm seeing, the type of websites that are built using WordPress.
Interesting. Just curiosity, do forums actually fit under memberships, or is this a complete different branch from them?
I wouldn't see them, as a membership per se. They could be like an extension to a membership site that adds engagement. So you could, if your goal is to build a community, you could use like a forum or things like that, a discussion board to encourage members like to chat with each other and increase engagement and also build a stronger community.
Interesting. Okay. So if someone wants to build a membership website for mostly for some sort of community, what are the first questions they should ask themselves before even like considering WordPress?
Yeah, so I would go for the first like general, more high level approach. So I would ask, why am I trying to build this membership site? Like, what's the goal? Am I trying to create build a community, create some passive income, have a consultancy, sell access to, content or teach people something. So it needs to be pretty clear what type of membership site I want to build and what type of members I want to attract. Like, what's the value proposition? What's the value that I will offer these members? I would start with these questions before getting into, the specifics regarding uh, how should I package this value proposition? Should it be like a recurring subscription? Should it be like a one-time thing? Should it be things like, dripping content and so on? What's the pricing that I offer and so on? Obviously, how do I market this and how do I attract people? But I think the main ones would be like focusing on why you're doing it and what's the goal and the type of value that you want to create for your members.
Okay, makes sense. So yeah, it makes sense. Rather than you start firstly about what you need rather than saying, oh, let's start using WordPress to set up something and you don't know kind of like what the end goal is. It's good to know what the target is. And then in fact, of
Yes.
different I'm presuming different membership websites have different requirements. However, like what are the most common core features, I would say, that every membership website should have at least?
Yeah, the funny thing is that, the core features have increased and became more and more sophisticated over time, along with like membership site. It's not just adding a PayPal button and trying to sell some sort of a subscription. Uh, People that build successful membership sites have a couple clear and core requirements, and it makes sense. So besides the account creation and registration, the fact that you need like registration forms, you also need membership management and subscription management. So a core thing would definitely be like from any membership plugin should allow you to create like different plans with tiers and pricing, and also offer a lot of flexibility there. Like what type of subscriptions do you want to build? Then you go into things like, content restriction. Like what type of content do you want to restrict? Do you want to restrict pages? Do you want to restrict downloads or videos or, files, things like that? Then obviously you need payments. So a payment gateway integration is also a critical part. You need some reliable payment gateways. It's not a good idea to store and process the payments yourself. So integration with very trustworthy payment gateways is a must. What else? Stats, for example.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Stats, it's like you would need to know like how many subscriptions, active subscriptions you have, what's your recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue, predicted annual recurring revenue, or so on. So stats are also something that I would put under core features that are a must in any membership plugin.
Interesting. You also said that the core features kind of thing over the last few years have increased. Like you've been how long you've had the membership plugin? Like have you seen for the last few years? Have you seen like what were the major changes you've noticed in membership websites? How have they
Yeah.
changed and improved, for example?
So paid members subscriptions was launched in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and a lot has changed since. So it's more than 10 years. What I'm seeing and what I think what we're focusing on is offering. So our goal is to help people like that create membership sites grow their recurring revenue. So make more money. And what we've seen that help a lot with conversions, besides the marketing, like besides getting users on your website, is offering them very flexible payment terms and subscriptions. So you would want to experiment with different types of subscriptions. Maybe we also have, for example, paying it in installments or things like that you could split the payment in different intervals so that someone is less likely to commit to a smaller initial amount, experiment with free trials or a sign-up fee, for example. So all these things that add flexibility in terms of subscriptions and payments, I feel that's the trend. That's something that more and more people are leaning towards because it's definitely increases conversion and increases the chances of you growing faster.
Interesting. You're mentioning this payment thing. So basically, you mentioned these changes, like membership website owners are requesting these type of things, even like splitting the payments. Just curious, could it be a result because maybe there are too many membership websites, so people are trying to do as much as they can to make it even easier to attract people and get more members? Because building community is not easy. It was never easy. But could it be like it's becoming harder and harder, even though we have more tools, it's becoming harder. So we are seeing more of these type of features to attract more users.
Yeah, I think it's normal to require or to make use of more sophisticated tools in order to convince more users to sign up. It makes sense. Maybe it's competition, maybe it's, I don't know, the general market, but even if in a booming market and with very few competition, if you were to like increase the chances of having much more signups, you would go for it. So it's just an option that gives you more flexibility and leverage, I believe.
Interesting. No, I was just wondering. It does make sense, of course, but I was just wondering because, especially we're seeing a lot of online subscriptions and payments. So yeah, maybe people are a bit more. They have so much because even it happens to me sometimes. Especially running a business. I'm sure it happens to you. You check the credit card statement at the end of the month. Like, what is this? What is this? There's so many subscriptions nowadays. Even companies like us, we depend a lot on there's the licensing model of software has changed a lot. In the old days, up until 10, 15 years ago, you buy a license and maybe you pay for the support package or something. Nowadays, most services are not mostly are subscription-based licenses. That's what we're seeing. And membership, of course, is a reflection of the cost. Membership, usually you pay either a monthly or weekly or yearly fee, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It can also be one time, it can also be like a one-time fee, and you bet on like upselling different, as I mentioned previous, like products or other services that you have. I think the possibilities are many when it comes to membership sites, but it's, as you mentioned, like you review all the subscription and you ask yourself, am I getting value out of this? Do I want to keep this? That's the question on everybody's mind. So the real, I don't know, struggle or the real challenge here is to build enough value so that people will continue to renew and be your members.
Are they common, the one-time subscriptions? Because it feels like with one-time subscriptions, there's always kind of a ceiling, unless you start upselling. But
Yeah.
I,
For example, courses sometimes are one-time subscriptions. It's like for the duration of the course. It depends also on the level of engagement. Is it like an interactive course? Is it something pre-recorded that you get access to certain files or videos and you do it at your own pace? Yes, there are only these. But I think now, speaking about value, one concept I really like, and I think this translates beautifully to membership websites, is, the 1,000 true fans. There's an article by Kevin Kelly, I think, and basically it says, that every creator can build a really good living for himself if he finds and reaches 1,000 true fans. He doesn't need like a huge following, a lot of famous, like to get really famous, just to get to this number of 1,000 true fans that will basically buy from you whatever you produce or create and continue to support your work for your entire career. So we can maybe, I don't know, link to this in the show
yeah,
notes,
I'll definitely, yeah.
but I think this is such a beautiful concept that we always focus on, membership size. We need to like increase and grow. But the reality is, if you have like a number of like real true fans that share your work and they will spread the word about you and your business and so on. I think as a membership website owner, you could be set in a very comfortable way and keep doing your craft, to your community.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. As you said, like, I think it's just the culture nowadays. Everything is fast, just get more users, more is the idea of always growing, so, like for infinity. But yeah, it makes sense because if you have, let's assume, one-man band, you have a membership website, 1,000 users. If you charge them $10 per month, that is $10,000, or $5, that is $5,000 per month. So yeah, like, and then of course you can have different ones and hopefully grow that. But yeah, that's already for a single person. Let's put it this way, it's a stable income kind of thing. So it makes, of course,
Exactly.
yeah, very interesting. Let's jump a bit into the technicalities of things. Like one thing which is common, which I noticed with membership websites, custom login pages, registration flows, and these type of things. Because of course the default WordPress login is more like for the admin site rather than memberships. What should membership website owners consider or think of when they are customizing the registration flows and the custom logins? Like, what are the pros and cons or the typical technical problems they encounter?
So first, yeah, not using the default WordPress login page and registration page. I think the main thing here would be like customizing. You want to gather as much meaningful and relevant information from your users and members as possible. So building forms, adding all these like custom fields, and customizing to those like specific members, like tailored for them, because you can also have websites, for example, membership websites where you have like different types of members, like let's say students and teachers. Ideally, you would have like different registration forms and flows for both of them in order to gather like different type of data using custom forms and custom registration forms. So this is actually what we do with the profile builder. And what I didn't mention before was that when we created paid member subscriptions, it was like Profile Builder was the first plugin, which is like a user management and registration form. And it does exactly this, like helping you build communities by creating beautiful registration forms and member directories and so on. And a lot of our users asked for payments. They wanted like paid user profiles, for example, or things like that. And how we had the idea of developing also a solution that later became like a fully fledged membership plugin. So this can also make a lot of sense to customize your forms, to integrate payments, because I mentioned associations or directories. Let's say you're looking for a plumber in your city, you go online and you search, and if you get to a community, you have like a list of plumbers with reviews, everybody, you see the pictures, the contact information, and that can also be like a membership site. The owner created like a directory of plumbers that they pay a certain membership in order to be listed there and so on. They get reviews. So that's also pretty familiar or use case that I see quite a lot.
I never saw those as membership websites. It's true though. It never crossed my
Yeah.
mind that it's actually a membership website.
Yeah, so we have quite a few customers that like buy these two plugins as a bundle just to build this type of like directories, I would call them. But you also can add like the community component, and also it doesn't have to be super transactional. It can also be like photographers or that have a similar hobby and so on, but they pay to be part of a group, or entrepreneurs, WordPress
Yes.
business owners and so on. Yes, so
Interesting.
possibilities are limitless.
You said that when creating like the form, the registration form, like you should get as much information as you can from the members. That is, of course, important to run membership website. But there's also kind of like that the friction, like as in like where's the balance? Because sometimes
Yes,
the more, even I like when you try to register to a website and you get to a long form, it's like no, like where is the balance there? How to find that
exactly.
balance?
The balance would be you find it by experimenting and tracking conversions, seeing how many registrations you have and so on. So experimenting, ideally you wouldn't want to like have them spend a lot of time when at registration. You can also have like an edit profile page that's easily available afterwards, where they can update their profile and spend more times once they're in. So ideally that would be the flow, but you still want to tailor the registration, the login forms, everything to your users' needs and make them as easy to use as possible.
Just curiosity, maybe it's an obvious question, but I'm not into membership websites, so I don't know. You mentioned right away, and I've seen it, of course. Like, don't use the default WordPress registration and admin login. Like, why? Can you explain why?
Yeah, because it breaks the whole experience. First of all, you go from like the front end of your website to the back end of your website, like you're basically logged in something that's a dashboard that's inconsistent with the experience that you're trying to offer, and it confuses people. And maybe a lot of people won't complete it, will leave, will don't, confusion, obvious. Most of the times leads to churn and to people leaving your website and probably never coming back.
Interesting. And I'm sure you see a lot of people trying to integrate their membership website with third-party services, like CRM software, stuff like that. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
what are the most common problems there, usually? Or what to look out for, basically, if
So
you're
with
looking to
every
integrate?
integration you have, it's another thing that um, you have to maintain, more or less. You have to sometimes, integrations just, are not online anymore or have problems in terms of availability, and you would need, some automated tests or things like that to tell you that, I don't know, let's say you're using an integration that adds or checks the VAT number on the checkout page. If that is down, probably people won't be able to,
Exactly.
finish the purchase, or will be frustrated that they have to pay that tax even though they have a valid number. So those are the kind of like problems that may arise from using these integrations. It's not something that you can completely go around, because it makes sense to use a certain like email provider if you're building an email list and so on, which most membership sites should do, by the way.
Yeah. So it's important when you're choosing the services you want to use with your membership website. It's important to use like reliable services at least, not one that.
Reliable services, and also have some automated tests or in-house, like regularly checking if everything is, and monitoring is, if everything is working properly.
Nice. How earlier on you mentioned also like especially users like to create different types of membership, different levels. So I'm presuming the user roles from WordPress come into play. Is that right? Like people use custom
Yes,
user roles, and
yes.
what are the most common problems you see there, or what should membership website owners look out for and yeah, be attentive about using user roles?
Yeah, so I think the problems are either you have like you give too many privileges, or you give too little to certain roles, and a lot of people don't use the possibility of creating custom user roles that are specifically tailored for a certain user or user role on your website. So I highly encourage people to create custom user roles for their members, their the people that manage a certain area of the website and so on. We have it built into our product, the ability to create custom user roles. When you create like a membership plan, it's also attached to a custom user role that you can like easily edit or add more privilege. So yeah, these are, I think, the main ones.
You need
I
to run
also
some tests, yeah, and confirm that they have the right
Yes, because the
privileges.
bigger, like when you have user registration and a lot of accounts that are being like registered, a lot of users, and if you give too many rights to these users, that's a huge security issue as well. So
Of course.
it can be like it's a magnet for hackers or potential security threats. The fact that you have so many accounts on your website.
Yes, and it's always easier. We see it even from the security point of view. It's always easier to give a user more rights than they need because it will always work, kind of thing. You also mentioned, if I heard you correctly, you see that not a lot of people not a lot of people use custom roles yet. Is there any
Yes.
reason? Do you know why? Or maybe because it's lack of awareness, or maybe it's because difficult you have to create this custom role.
I think it's a combination, like lack of awareness that you have these default user roles in WordPress, and nobody really wants to. There's a bit of a learning curve, like to create a custom user role, even though you have free plugins like ours and many others that allow you to also create user roles and custom user roles, but you still have to figure out all the privileges and so on that you tick there. Like, what exactly does that mean, and what? So I think that's where the friction comes from.
I see. Yeah, and no, it is because we have been working with user roles, and it is a bit more complex for the average user. It is quite complex, especially I'm assuming someone wants to set up a membership website. They might not necessarily be technical people, so they might need to improve their technical know-how or work with the developer to understand like what capabilities are, what the user roles are, and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
we try to do that out of the box and not give them like headaches with
Mm.
like adding custom roles.
Talking about user roles, in fact, that kind of comes hand in hand with security. Apart from user roles, like what are the most common security threats you've seen on membership websites?
So in terms of accounts, definitely like things like, having like enforcing things like strong passwords and a certain length. Then you have like with membership sites, one thing that's quite popular is account sharing, which also
Yes.
can lead to like leaks and so on. So having a tool that also prevents that, we try to do it as well. So we have that built in order to prevent account sharing. And yeah, you need, like, for example, tools like the ones you have, like WP Activity Log, like just monitoring what's going on behind the scenes, because when you have so many users and getting, notifications when something is off, being able to address that very fast. So a monitoring plugin, you can also add like two-factor authentication to enhance the security. Then you have, with content piracy and so on, that's also an issue. So you can use things, instead of like having some, I don't know, videos that you host that are downloadable and so on, do streaming, use like third-party services and so on to address that. These are like some of the issues that I think unexperienced like membership site owners run into often.
Yeah, I think using third-party services, usually it's not always, but sometimes it's more helpful. Like even just yesterday, I was talking to someone about password managers, and we were discussing the option between having a password manager, a software that you download and install on your computer, or using an online service like
Yeah,
OnePassword or these ones. And like the difference is you can have one running on your computer, of course, but most probably services like OnePassword or other vendors, they have a bigger budget when it comes to security. I mean, there will always be incidents, but the chances of your computer getting hacked is much higher than the OnePassword service getting hacked. So relying on third-party services who maybe already have some sort of solution, especially for security and management, it helps. Kind of.
yeah.
Yeah. You also
And
mentioned, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just thinking payments also. You like
Yeah.
when you have user account and payments, like the risks are there. With payments also, as I mentioned, like never like handle yourself or store the credit cards details and so on. Always rely on like
Yes.
trustworthy payment gateways and so on. So I would emphasize that as well.
Yeah, it makes compliance much easier as well, security and compliance. You also mentioned the account sharing problem because you said
Yeah.
that you have it in your. Did you solve it? Because like I know it was one of a few years ago, it was one of Netflix's biggest headaches, and they're still kind of scrambling their head around it because it's.
Yeah, that was a very a highly requested feature several years ago when we launched that because it was requested by many of our users, and when there's demand, you have to comply.
Yes. Just curious, how does that? Do you like check IPs? Do you check the usernames and IP sessions?
Yes, you
And
check exactly. Yes. Pretty much we have several levels, but yeah, that's the most basic level that you can do.
interesting. Since we're talking about security, clearly security is very important on every type of website, but more and more on membership websites where you can have hundreds, thousands of users or tens of thousands of users. And of course, the security of your website does not rely 100% on what you're doing, but also on those users using secure passwords. Of course, it depends what type of access they have. However, even from experience, like that too much security is also there's a lot of friction. So that means also like making it harder for someone to register, to use your websites, like have you ever seen like a good balance between like having good enough security? Because for example, even like 2FA, I'm a fan of 2FA because we have a 2FA plugin
Yeah.
ourselves. But if you have people who are just maybe reading some documents and they don't submit or access any payment details or anything like that, by adding 2FA, sometimes you're kind of like slowing them down. Although having said that, 2FA is becoming more popular. Actually, I like it when some websites you just register, you don't have to enable anything, and as soon as you try to log in, they just send you a one-time code via email. Email is not the most secure, but at least that's the first step, kind of thing. So yeah, where is the right balance? Like how far should you go when it comes to security and attracting members at the same time?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I would say you have to, find a balance. So I would go for a really strict like security compliance for admins of the website. So everybody that's admin that needs to have like really strict security compliance and measures in place. Then I would go for a lighter, more balanced approach for the members. So ideally, we don't, as we discussed with registration forms and so on, we don't want to add too much friction. We need to do the bare minimum so that, there's not a lot of friction during like registration, signups, and so on. And then whatever is invisible to the user, so everything that's back end, that I would go really hard on, like try to do as much as possible on the like security and safety side there. So ideally, I wouldn't expose the users to too much friction because of security, and there are many ways to do this. So this approach seems more in line with what I would do.
Yeah, I think it also really depends on the type of website users you have. For example, last time we had a customer of ours for the 2FA plugin, and they were asking us about some things about the timeout of the code and the SMS and stuff. And then we realized it's actually they were implementing 2FA on a website for a retirement home where like most of the people were old, so they were not so technology friendly. Many of them didn't even have a mobile or an email. So yeah, so it really depends on the crowd that
That's
you have.
not a good idea. Yeah, exactly. You would probably see like logins drop 90% the second day, right? And
yeah, so it really depends. So I think
why.
Yeah. In fact, kind of my next question is also like, what are the best practices or recommendations in regards to what you should monitor to the user? First of all, thank you for mentioning our plugin. But yes, like you should monitor. But what are the most common practices in terms of monitoring?
So things like, strong passwords, things like that, limiting login attempts, user monitoring. You can also, I don't know, do like a strong web host with like daily backups, a firewall maybe also. That's what comes to mind. Those are the first things that I would implement on a decently sized like membership website.
Good. And it's, of course, as we said, it's very important to understand your crowd before you do. As we said, like if you implement 2FA
Exactly.
on a retirement home website, most probably it won't.
Also, the number of members that you have, like how big is the website, how, what type of members you have, and so on.
Nice. Membership websites, of course, process and handle a lot of personal data. So there's even if you don't handle payments, as you said, maybe the payments is handled by a third party, but you're still handling a lot of data. However, from what you see, like however are most membership website owners that you know about the different type of compliance regulations that their website has to meet?
I think they're becoming more and more aware, and I think more tools are developing that allow you to do this without a lot of headaches or going into legal matters, which is a pain, especially when you're trying to grow and are, in a small size. That can be really painful, like navigating all of this. So if someone can provide to you with like a package of, okay, you need to have this cookie banner there and have, make sure you don't store this or that, and have an option to, if someone requests a deletion of all their website data and so on, an ability to do that. So yeah, having these things in place. We try to integrate some of them in our plugins, but we don't want to turn it into, something that does everything. Too
Yeah.
many features are not okay. Like keeping it lightweight and then relying on, as you mentioned, third parties, other plugins. That would be the way to go.
So are you seeing any increase in also not just requests for kind of like compliance features, but also of third-party services and plugins in relation to compliance?
I saw an increase to, yes, some, like even if you look into the WP org directory and you look at the date, for example, the GDPR law when it was became was first launched, you can like start seeing the numbers of downloads like going up. It's normal that people are looking for a turnkey solution, like to fix this problem and also be. And there's also other websites that tell themselves, I'll get to that when I grow a bit and I become, this becomes more or less a business, not just a part-time thing for me. And that's also understandable.
But is it a smart move? Is it a good move to wait until you grow big, or you should kind of,
I
as you build
think
the
I
website?
think you should. I think given that there are so many tools and it's not that you don't have to be a coder or so on to like a developer to implement them, I think you should start doing them as fast or as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think it makes sense because as you build your system, maybe as your membership website grows, you might need to integrate more third-party services. So compliance becomes a bit more complicated. The system becomes a bit more complicated. So then if you had to implement, there's a difference between implementing compliance on a simple membership website and growing with that rather than now you have a complex membership website and you have to somehow make that compliant, right? It's a bit, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's also I think even the headaches, because I mean, like I'm sure you've done it like us, even just simple things like writing the privacy policies, the terms of agreement, there's so much that goes into that, right?
It is. It is. And the good part is that with AI, you can have like a legal counsel,
Yeah.
like that gets you 90% there, and then the polishing touch should be done by an expert. But I think you can get a good idea of what those terms need to be.
Is it more, just curious, I don't know if you can answer this, but is it more of a, do you see more this rise in regards to compliance awareness in Europe or also more in the US as well?
I think it's mainly in Europe. I see it on the rising in the US as well. And I think this is okay. I think, these types of rules are meant to like protect our privacy, our information. I think it makes sense to have them. They add friction, and maybe at some point we will figure out a way to optimize them and to make them better and to not affect usability so much, but I think it's good that they exist.
No, no, I agree with most of them. In fact, I really hate it when I contact someone, just send them an email to ask them a normal question, and all of a sudden you are subscribed to their weekly newsletter, some other side sort of brochure, you start receiving a lot of emails like, I just sent you an email asking you for a price, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, we're talking about membership websites growing, so of course, performance comes into play, the database grows. Yeah, like what are, do you have like some strategies or some tips as a website grows? What are things you should keep an eye on to make sure that your website remains fast and performant?
Yeah, so I think it comes a lot to like the type of hosting that you use, having like regularly cleaning your database of like old data. Um, then caching is also something that uh, is required for optimization. And there are like different types of caching, from like page caching to object caching, or even like going as far as like using a content delivery network for like images and I don't know, JavaScript files and so on your website. But you can also do that for if you're like delivering or serving a different type of content, like video, for example. You can also like use that. Yeah, I think these are the main things for optimizing. And yeah, using like updating your plugins, updating WordPress, using reliable tools, and that are well supported and build following like WordPress best practices. That's also
Yeah, of
something
course.
that gets missed, left behind, but that causes the majority of problems with WordPress websites and membership sites,
Outdated software.
obviously.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a big problem. I mean, just today we had a support case. Someone had a problem with one of our plugins modules, and they are using a plugin from almost 2 years ago, and like first update, and and they refuse to update. I don't want to update because it takes a certain process. But yeah, like we're not going to fix something that 99.9% has been fixed in the last 2 years.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a common problem. Um, Performance and also testing. Now, membership websites can be very complex, of course, can become very complex. How can membership website owners test their websites? We're talking about updates. So, of course, you update, like even like your plugin, it's the core plugin that makes the membership website. Are there like any best practices or recommended ways of how to test every different? Because you have the registration form, you have the checkout, you have the payment, you have the profile. Like, how can you test everything with every update kind of thing and make it easier for the membership website owner to make sure their website is running correctly?
Yeah, yeah. Ideally, like when you grow and you become sizable, like any sizable membership website should have like tests, like automated tests running in the front end and testing things like from like the critical flows, account creation, the checkout page, payments, are they working, are they not? You should definitely have like a staging site where you test like every new functionality or everything that you push before pushing it to like the live site. And yeah, so running these types of tests, I think, is super important and constantly monitoring your website, like what's functioning, what's not functioning. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a job in itself,
Yeah.
depending on the size of the website.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think having someone testing the website, as you said, it depends on the size of the website, but it's always worth paying someone doing some tests or maybe building some automation around it, rather than getting to know that the last few days we had much less subscriptions. Why? And maybe because the registration form is broken. So it's better to find out
Exactly,
from your tester than to find out from
exactly. Or we added like 2FA and nobody has a phone.
exactly. Yes.
So, so yeah, that would be like a good question to ask. Even if, everything is functioning, but you added something that, doesn't work for your user. So even
Exactly.
in that sense, it makes sense to constantly monitor like
Yes.
the analytics that I mentioned previously.
Yeah. Now, knowing your users definitely makes a difference. In fact, we are asked quite often about our activity log plugin, like, hey, should I monitor this or should I monitor this? And the funny thing is that what is important for us might not be important for your website or vice versa. So I cannot exactly tell you. If you have a membership website, for example, on average when your let's forget about the members for but your team, if you have a team of editors and people, when they roughly log in, where they don't, what they usually do and do not. So
Mhm.
I cannot tell you exactly, oh, just monitor this IP, because I don't know how your team works. So you have to understand your team and your users to be able to monitor your website properly, to be able to secure your website properly. Of course, there are some basics, but the more, even like as you're saying, the registration form, like where is the balance, how much information you ask for, it's very important to know who you are targeting, because otherwise, yeah, and by knowing that, you can really fine tune what you're doing in terms of security, performance, registration. user experience and everything, right?
Interesting. I'm curious, like, what are the most popular like use cases for WP activity log? Like, what do people use it for most often?
The most, I mean, we have a number of kind of like industry verticals, but one of the most common as well is e-commerce solutions. Especially, there are two aspects to it, like keeping an eye on the team, not for kind of like big brother approach, but more like, listen, if who approved this order, why there was this mistake, let's fix
Yeah.
it kind of thing, more like that one. But also monitoring the users. As for example, we've had cases where there was this person where I don't know who it was, but anyway, it was a support case because they were asking us for some to explain some of the things of the logs. They were basically they ordered a number of products, and after they changed the address, and then they were saying, "Oh, you never sent us the product." But then through the logs, they could see that he ordered the products. He or she, I forgot. They ordered the product. The company actually processed the order. They shipped them, but then they changed the address or something like that. So they never received the products on the new address. So they were saying, "Oh, like we never received them." But yeah, you changed the address after you placed the order. So
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of these things. So yeah, those are quite. So usually, especially when it comes to e-commerce, yeah, you see it both monitoring the team and also the client. But then of course you have another big use case to actually compliance, of course, especially when it
Mhm.
comes to government agencies, medical hospitals, banks, financial institutions. It's big logging. Like I didn't know actually before we started logging. Uh, I think in the UK, but most countries are similar. But I think in the UK, financial institutions have to keep logs. I think for around 8 years or 10, something like that. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
also very common. Um,
Okay.
yeah, compliance is very big. And also very common in the WordPress ecosystem, agencies and clients. There's always this, oh, I didn't do anything, but the website's
Yeah,
fine. And usually,
sounds familiar.
exactly, yeah. I think every WordPress vendor developer has been through this. Like, oh, what did you do? No, nothing. It just stopped working.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I've heard
Um,
even like from plugin developers or sellers that they had like this dispute in PayPal that the user claimed, I never downloaded the product, I never like logged into the account.
yes,
This was like I don't recognize, and then you see in the logs like how many times they downloaded, logged in, and so on. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yes.
very useful.
Yes. Now, logs are very useful in general. It's also very common, for example, like with renewals, like, oh, I didn't want to renew, but yeah, like we send, like most vendors, we send an email 1 month before, like, listen, this is going to renew. These are the instructions on how to cancel the renewal. Like, so if you want, you have the option to it's like, oh, I didn't know it was auto renewal. And if you keep the logs of when emails are sent,
Emails are opened and
yeah. So
seen
logs
and so on.
are
Yeah.
very important. In fact, talking about emails, by the way, emails are still we have so many messaging platforms nowadays, but emails are still like one of the most common means of communication online, especially with membership websites. How often do you see email deliverability problems on membership websites?
Uh, Actually, we don't monitor, the actual deliverability. So I couldn't give like a very
Mm.
clear answer on this.
But don't you
It's
get like support emails, for example, hey, I set up this plugin, but my members are not receiving like the registration, sorry, like the confirmation email or something like that?
Yeah, normally in that cases we recommend a certain service, a third-party service that, it's known to have like high deliverability. And yeah, it depends again on your servers and what do you use as with everything, what type of like how reliable is that specific server and so on. It didn't get a lot of friction from our customers, like this specific scenario. They definitely use emails. They also use like email reminders. All of these like are engagement tools that you should like use and make use of to stay in touch with your members and yeah, keep them engaged.
Interesting. The reason why I asked about emails because I've heard it a couple of times, and even we experienced it. When we developed and launched WP2FA or 2FA plugin, the
Mm.
free edition basically has, you can use either TOTP via mobile app or you receive the code via email. And we ended up, so in the early days, we still do, but we reduce it by doing some things in the plugin. But we ended up troubleshooting more email issues than actual plugin issues because, oh, you didn't receive the email. Because I've noticed
Interesting.
it's very common, even especially if you talk to developers of some sort of like forms plugins, they will tell you that email deliverability is always the biggest headache. It's not the form, it's not
Mm.
how the form works or how to build the form, but having emails delivered is always like one of the biggest issues because many people, for some reason, I think this is the last thing that crosses their mind. They have not configured at least a proper from address or something, so emails are not being sent. They're getting the server does not allow the relaying of the emails, so it is a big problem. Huh? It's quite
Okay. So most of the times it's a setting up problem, right? Like, or
either
like
setting up or
configuration process.
yes, or they have some low level host. I'm not necessarily cheap, but yeah, some host that doesn't allow emails, for example, or they have to ask permission for them to allow them to send emails. It's a very
Yeah.
common problem. Yeah, one last question before we close. From your experience, like what some of, I know it depends of course on the type of crowd you are trying to attract and the type of community you're trying to build, but what are like some 2 or 3 tips that you recommend membership website owners to do, like to grow and nurture this community?
So first would be like once you have like a very clear focus on who do you want to serve and what's the value that you provide, I would focus on maximizing that amount of value. So do a combination of free and paid offerings so that you attract the right type of people, and also once they're there and see that the value of the free stuff is so high, they are super likely to also purchase something from you and also become, as I mentioned previously, fans, ambassadors of your like brand, more or less. So this, I think it's super important, like having a clear focus and having a strong value proposition um, is something that helps a lot a website, like a membership websites and patients to
Mm,
take off. Because you can have like the technically perfect website, like membership site with all types of payment gateways and so on, and checkout pages, and still have very little members because you didn't do any like marketing and growth, activities, and you just focused on the actual platform instead of focusing on what's the most amount of value that I can offer them.
interesting. Thanks a lot, Adi. Before we end this episode, where can people find you, or the website of your the URL of your website or something like that?
Yeah, so I'm on both on X and LinkedIn at Adi Spiac, the ADISPIAC. And yeah, our websites are cosmoslabs.com.
Good. Thank you very much for your time, Adi. And yeah,
Thank you, Robert,
hopefully,
as well. Always a great time catching up.
indeed. And hopefully I'll catch you up at some other WordCamp. Thanks a lot, Adi. Thanks everyone for following. And yeah, we'll see you, as I said, the next 2 weeks. We don't have any episodes because we'll be traveling. But yeah, we'll see you in a few weeks. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Adi. Thanks again. Thanks.
Bye.